diluent is simply water, is just sterile water. It is used to mix the vaccine because most of the vaccines come as a powder and we want to be able to inject it into our bodies. So we have to mix it, and we mix it with water, and it is called the diluent. This all it is sterile water. Again, not causing any problem at all. We have other things now called adjuvants, and these are good because they actually help to improve the immune response. They keep the vaccine right at the injection site. You know, they're responsible for that pain and tenderness that we get because it is telling the body that, yes, time to go and make those germ fighting tools. There are also some aluminum salts that are present, but again, same way in the food that we normally eat and drink in those quantities. All right, so everybody now is concerned that they don't want the COVID-19 vaccine because, you know, the vaccine kind of like make too quick and other vaccines take a long time. So I'm just going to share a video with us. It is Vaccine Development 101. Take a listen from it.
How do you create a vaccine to fight a new disease? And why does it take so long? Well, first, you have to identify the virus or bacterium that causes the disease. In some cases, the pathogen itself can then be weakened or deactivated and used to make a vaccine. But this isn't always possible. In these cases, the next step is to identify the pathogen's antigens, unique protein or glycoprotein markers which can form the basis of a new vaccine. For some pathogens, these antigens always stay the same. Other pathogens, like the virus that causes flu, can change or mutate their antigens, and so these must be reanalyzed every year. Once you have identified the pathogen or antigens, you need to decide how you are going to use them to build a vaccine. This is called the vaccine platform. There are a lot of options here, like subunit vaccines that only use part of the pathogen. There are also newer or more experimental technologies, like viral vector or nucleic acid-based vaccines. But we'll get to these a bit later. You also need to decide how the vaccine will be administered. By injection into the skin or muscle, orally like the polio vaccine, or through the nose like some flu vaccines. Each of these options could affect the response the vaccine induces. For now, let's say you've decided on the platform and designed the vaccine. Next, it needs to be tested, first in cell cultures and then in animal models. This might include challenge studies, where animals that have been given the vaccine are deliberately exposed to the target disease to see if the vaccine protects them. Further down the line, and if the disease isn't too serious or effective treatments are available, humans might take part in challenge studies too. Once the vaccine candidate is proven safe in animals, you need to prove you can manufacture it to a high enough standard for people and at scale. This is called GMP certification. If the vaccine passes all of these stages, it's time to begin human trials. Normally, these come in 3 phases, and they all have to be passed. First, the vaccine is given to a small group of healthy people to test for adverse reactions. This is called the safety trial. Second, you give the vaccine to hundreds of people to work out what dose is needed to trigger a big enough immune response. Finally, you can trial the vaccine in thousands of people to see how effective it is. This step is often the slowest, and participants are sometimes recruited around the world. Researchers have to wait for participants to come into contact with the pathogen naturally. By tracking how many become infected, they can work out how effective the vaccine is at protecting the group. It can take decades to gather enough data to be sure. But if you do, the vaccine can finally be licensed. There are still problems to overcome, however. Mass producing a vaccine to a high standard can be a difficult job. And once you've cracked production, you still have to deliver the vaccine to where it's needed. And then there's phase 4 monitoring, keeping track of rare adverse reactions that the vaccine might cause even though it's passed the previous trials. This trial process is very safe. but that comes at a cost. It is also very slow. In an emergency, there are ways to speed things up, like reducing the time spent waiting for paperwork to be completed, or running different trial phases at the same time. But steps are never missed out. By working more efficiently, a protective vaccine could be produced in as little as 12 to 18 months, and advances in biotechnology could speed up production pipelines as well. And there are more ways we could speed up production. Let's come back to some of those newer vaccine platforms. Nucleic acid vaccines don't use pathogens or antigens directly. Instead, they deliver the genetic templates for the antigens. These DNA or RNA templates can be delivered directly or in lipid nanoparticles that help them to enter cells and improve their stability after injection. These nanoscale fat droplets encapsulate the RNA or DNA, protecting it as it enters the body. Some lipid nanoparticles can also act as adjuvants, molecular triggers to kickstart the immune response. Once inside the body, these DNA or RNA templates instruct our cells to start making antigens which activate the immune response needed to build immunity. RNA and DNA are much easier and faster to produce in the lab than antigens are. They're also potentially safer than vaccines that contain whole pathogens. That means they could hopefully be used by people with weakened immune systems. But nucleic acid vaccines are still experimental. Another approach is called a viral vector. Viral vector vaccines work by inserting an incomplete segment of genetic material from a pathogen inside a harmless virus that doesn't cause disease. This then acts as a vehicle for the genetic material, delivering it to the right place in the body where it can be translated into proteins, triggering the immune system. The viral vector may even be self-replicating, increasing the amount of vaccine in the body. Viral vector vaccines are also quick to produce. Safe vectors have already been established, and it is relatively easy to insert different target genetic material into these established carriers. And as the genetic material inserted is incomplete, they can't replicate and cause disease, so they're also very safe. But there is only so much the process can be sped along. Effective vaccines can save millions of lives, but before they are used, they have to be proven to be safe and effective. In the future, researchers hope to develop vaccines against non-infectious diseases, like cancers, based on chemical markers called tumor neoantigens. Vaccine technology is developing every day, and it has a bright future, albeit a slow and methodical one. How do you
So we have seen that vaccines have been pretty effective. They have helped us over the years, but something is holding us back when we get to COVID-19 vaccines. And the big question is what? Why are we so hesitant to take the vaccine for ourselves? And why do we not want to protect our children by vaccinating them? A lot of the challenge is really fear. We are afraid of, I guess, the unknown. And I mean, honestly, when we were kids taking vaccines, we just turn up to school and them jukwi, or you go to health center and you get it. We can't even remember. But now as adults, I guess we are processing. And what is compounding the fear is the conspiracy theories. The conspiracy theories are running wild and they are fraught with misinformation. There is so much coming at us that it is difficult to kind of like figure out what is true, what is correct. But interestingly, it is all of a sudden WhatsApp is now the journal, it's the medical journal of choice, it's the encyclopedia, it is the library of all knowledge. And really, on WhatsApp, a lot of people are just writing their own opinions. They are not checking anything. And it is really challenging us because it's this misinformation is fueling the fear that we have. There are persons that have some religious beliefs that is, holding them back. And really, it's just to have that conversation so that they can understand what we're trying to do. Now, some persons don't even know why them not want the vaccine. They really have no rhyme or reason as to why. And then we have family and friends that are discouraging us. And under the quiet, some of the family and friend them don't take the vaccine already, and they still are discouraging others of us. Some persons simply just don't trust the system. Is a big man are trying to make our money, and they just really don't trust the system. But we know the importance of vaccines, and we know that it will protect us and protect our children. But there are a lot of myths that are going around that is really, really, really making us hesitant. And the biggie is, of course, that the vaccines are not safe because they were rapidly developed. We learned from the little video that no steps at all are skipped, that this process is rigorous. We also learned at the whole heap of things that were put into making the vaccines so quickly. And one is sharing of knowledge. So once upon a time, every country, all of the scientists them used to hoard them own information. This is my information and I will get some prize out of it because I'm the first to do it. Last year, when we were in the pandemic, that never happened. All the knowledge came together. There was global collaboration, knowledge sharing. And guess what? They have been working on the coronavirus family long time to make a vaccine. So all of that just came together in one pool of knowledge. Guess what? Also, the business of money. So again, research companies used to have to go out and find money. They have to justify and get grants. That never happened last year. Last year, monies were flowing, knowledge was flowing, the solid base that they had all allowed for the vaccines to be developed very quickly. But my thing that I like the best out of the development is phase 3. Remember those trials we learned about? The phase 3 trial. That's the best one for me because the phase 3 trial normally takes about 10 years or more, 10 to 12 years. So 10 to 12 years, and we knock off 10 to 12 years in about 6 weeks last year. Because in phase 3, what you need to do is have thousands of persons all across the world take your medicine and see if it works in them. But they have to also be exposed to the disease you're trying to prevent. No, usually, not a lot of people have the disease, and it is difficult to find people around the globe. Black people, white people, yellow people, all sorts of people, because you can't just give it to one set and then think you can give it to another. Now, last year we never had that challenge because everywhere had COVID and everybody had it. So it was easy to find hundreds of thousands of persons in a short space of time. The Pfizer vaccine that we're talking about, they could find 40,000 persons in no time to be in the clinical trial. So that phase alone was cut down to weeks as opposed to decades. And that allowed for the quick development of the vaccine. Now, there are some other myths that are really, really getting to us. The COVID-19 vaccine, if I take it, it's going to alter my DNA. I'm going to turn into some other person. I'm going to grow some extra hands and feet. Well, look how much billion people have been vaccinated. I'm sure every single person on this platform knows somebody, either here in Jamaica or at foreign, that take the vaccine and they are still the very same person. They have not changed because the vaccines don't alter our DNA. It doesn't get inside of the area where our DNA is located. And better still, as soon as the information is translated, guess what? It disintegrates or it leaves the body. So there is no residual vaccine there waiting to change us. Now, the COVID-19 vaccine, and this is another biggie on social media, that it has some tracking device and it has some microchip, and if it's going to you, then I mean you're going to be magnetic, and the government can track every time you go to the bathroom and poo, because they have all come together to know that this is very important. Well, apart from sounding just a little bit over the top, and if we think about it logically and clearly, a lot of us can be tracked by our cell phones, which we do take to the bathroom, by the way. So, the government don't really, or governments don't really need to spend billions of dollars to track us. If they wanted to, we would have allowed them by utilizing our cell phones that we go out and purchase. But seriously though, the vaccines don't have any microchip, but we do track vaccines. We have always tracked vaccines, and we will continue to track them because we have to monitor the cold chain, for example. Now, vaccines are very, very delicate, and the Pfizer vaccine in particular is extremely delicate. If it is out of the temperature range, it is of no good. And when I say out of the temperature range, that is from them make it until we get it into your children's arm. It has to be at a particular temperature. So we have to monitor it. But we don't need to put anything inside of your body to monitor that cold chain. Now, we also monitor who make it, what batch number, and what lot number. Because guess what? We are giving this vaccine to healthy children. Healthy persons are getting the vaccine. So we need to know if something go wrong with them. So if we have 100 persons, for example, that take the Pfizer vaccine, and one report that something negative or something bad happened to them, what we do, we pull that batch, we look at the number, we look at who make it, we look at who give it, which health center, we look at when, and we investigate everything, and we find the other 99 children that would have received it. And if they are all okay, then we say, it's not the vaccine, because everybody else take it and everybody else all right. But suppose it's all of them, then we say, we have to look more carefully now at this vaccine, because and say it could be it. So we do track, but we don't need to put anything in your arm to track. The COVID-19 vaccine, everybody is saying now this, especially for our religious brothers and sisters, who are saying that, it having some fetal tissue, some dead baby or parts thereof, or it having animal tissue, it having pork, and them don't want it in their bodies. Nothing could be further from the truth. And if you look at the components, I've listed them because we have these vaccines in country and you might be taking it. So AstraZeneca don't have no animal tissue in it at all. It has some protein in it, it has some salt in it, some alcohol, some sugar, and water. That is what it is made up of. Pfizer is one for your kids. It has some fats in it, some salts in it, some sugar, plus it have the messenger RNA that codes for the protein, the spike that is on the coronavirus. No dead baby, no pork, no animal tissue at all. Johnson & Johnson coming soon, same thing. Don't have any of those things in it at all. Now, this is another one, but this one is for the adults, where they say, why am I not taking it now because it's going to make me infertile. I'm going to try to kill off Black people. Again, the COVID-19 vaccine does not cause infertility. There is no correlation between any of the proteins in the body that could lead to infertility in women. And I'm not even going to speak to the science again. I'm just going to speak to what we have seen. So persons who started taking the vaccine in March here in Jamaica, right here, Ayad, that took the vaccine in March, and they came back for their second dose pregnant. So this business of infertility, it not really cut it, because persons continue to become pregnant. The man them who take the vaccine can impregnate the women, and the women can keep the baby and have it. So let us put this infertility thing to rest. A lot of persons say that, they have the disease already, so I don't need to get the vaccine. I have my own natural immunity. Yes, you do have natural immunity, but guess what? Natural immunity wanes or it gets less over time. It is found that it lasts for about 4 or so months, maybe 6, and persons can get the disease again, full 100, them did get better, them get the disease and pop down, and this time they might die. The COVID-19 can give you this other myth that says once I get it, I will test positive. So I take the vaccine. Antibody. You're going to have antibodies. So it's really just to understand what is happening so that we are, not confused and we are not spreading rumors and making other persons fearful of the vaccine. So the COVID-19 vaccine have side effects. Yes, they can. Like everything else, side effects are possible. Just like when you eat peanut or shellfish and you swell up and you have to go to the doctor. And of course, if you have this allergy to these foods, for example, you're not going to eat them again. So if you have an allergy like that to the vaccine, we're not going to give you the second dose or give your child the second dose. But it is not because you're allergic to shellfish or peanut or penicillin. All of those allergies don't have nothing to do with the vaccine itself. You'd have to be allergic to one of the components. Remember the things I show you that make it up? You'd have to be allergic to one of those things into the vaccine to make you not get it. Then you have some people who say natural immunity just better me not contaminate my body with nothing. But in order for us to get natural immunity, we've got to have the disease. We have to get sick. And 4 point how much million people dead? Maybe we are not fortunate enough to live through and get this natural immunity that we're trying for. So the vaccines help to build the immunity without the damaging effects of the disease. Once I get COVID, I no longer need to wear a mask. Not a biggie. What's the point of taking the vaccine? Because I still have to wear a mask and I still have to hand wash and physical distance. Yes, we all do. So when your child or children get the vaccine and you get the vaccine, of course, we still have to do that because of why? We are protected, our cells are protected when we take the vaccine. But the next door neighbor not take a vaccine and somebody else don't take it and we can still spread the disease to them. They can get sick, they can get hospitalized, they can die. You know what that the guilt on your head? Say you are going to kill off people because you're selfish, because nothing not will happen to you. You're not going to get severely ill. You're not going to be hospitalized. You won't die because you have been vaccinated. So we need to get to what we call herd immunity before we can consider not wearing the mask. Now, we have the different vaccines in the country, and everybody quarreling about Jamaica at the outset. Them stop now. Everybody kind of stop now because they recognize the benefits of AstraZeneca. That it is not like the others, but AstraZeneca is a very good vaccine because it prevents 100% of the time. It prevents persons from falling ill. So you're not going to be hospitalized and you're not going to die if you get the AstraZeneca. You might get the COVID, but your disease is going to be very, very mild. sometimes you don't even know that you have anything, just a little sniffle like the flu. So AstraZeneca is good like that. Johnson & Johnson come in, it prevents hospitalization in 93% of persons. Yeah. So even if you get it, you're not going to go to hospital. The hospitals that are overcrowded. And makes sense you go foreign because foreign hospital crowded said way. So, these are vaccines that can help. And of course, our all-time favorite this evening is the Pfizer vaccine because that's the one for children. 95% effective at preventing COVID-19 illness in persons 16 years and older. That was the preliminary studies that they did, and they have found that it is equally effective in children from 12 years onwards. So who going to get the vaccine? Children. That's Pfizer we're talking, over 12. We started out by saying if they have comorbid conditions, we would give them. But, really and truly, they all need it. So it's all children now from 12 to 18 that are being offered the Pfizer vaccine here in country. Now, you as parents are also being offered the vaccine. And you should take it because the outcome for adults that don't take the vaccine is not so good. And then there are some special people who need it more than everybody else. These are persons who are obese. These are persons with any heart problem. So you have heart failure, you have hypertension, anybody with any chest problem, you have asthma, you have emphysema, you have bronchitis, you have sugar. You are the ones to take the vaccine because the outcome is not good if you get COVID. If you have HIV, then some people have some autoimmune sickness like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, and they may have multiple sclerosis. Yes, you are to take the vaccine. So now that it is being offered, mother and father and child, please take the vaccine because this will prevent you from being severely ill, hospitalized, and die. We spoke to the contraindications already, and we are at side effects. Everybody wants to know what the side effects are. Yes, they are there. There are some common side effects that we expect. And parents, when you took your children to get the baby vaccines, nurse always tell you must have cetamol at your yard because the baby going to get a fever, the baby going to get very irritable, the baby going to cry plenty, right? But if the baby crying holy for a very long time and you can't console the baby, you must do what? Carry the baby back to clinic. The same principle applies. So we just big now, but we're going to get pain and warmth and redness at the injection site, and we're going to get the urge to touch it and squeeze it, leave it alone, don't trouble it at all. We're going to feel unwell, we're going to get chills, fever, headache, joint pain. We expect that to happen. Not so common. 1 in 10 persons, they may get a lump at the injection site, but I just tell you to don't touch it. So if you don't touch it, you won't feel that the lump is there. You're going to get flu-like illness, the cough, the running nose, you're going to may also get, not so common, but 1 in about 100 person will get feeling dizzy, they'll get some abdominal pain, they might get wax and can all over the body, and they might get the itch. Now, all of these things, very, very common. We expect them, and they're uncomfortable, but it's a good thing because it is telling us that our bodies have recognized the vaccine and will start to develop these germ fighting tools. And of course, the symptoms last for about 24 to 48 hours. If you're very, very, very unfortunate, it might go for 3 days. And you can use your Panadol, your cetamol to help to reduce some of these side effects. Not anything to worry about. But everybody hear about things that they must worry about. The clot. And the AstraZeneca comes with clots. And that is for you. I'm telling it to the parents because if you take AstraZeneca, you're scared that you might get clot and dead leave your children. Nothing is going to go so. It is plausible. It can happen, but it is rare. 1 person in every 250,000 persons may get a clot. So if we were to vaccinate every single Jamaican with AstraZeneca, we might get 12 persons with clots. Now, the benefit of taking the vaccine way outweighs that risk, and we can treat persons who get clots. But just by comparison, to show you, is that we all from 18 to 45 take the oral contraceptive pill. The oral contraceptive pill, taking it, we have a chance of about one of us in every 2,500 ladies will get a clot. And they tell you that if you're over 35, if you're obese, if you smoke, nobody even think about taking the oral contraceptive pill, because blood clot is going to be right there knocking, waiting for you. So, we have to put things in what we call context so that we don't exaggerate some of the things that happen. And what is important is that we have signs and symptoms of these things, that we seek medical care. Johnson Johnson coming, you might have big kids, 18, going to university, that going to want to take it, there to get it. Guillain-Barré is what we heard about in the news, and it caused Guillain-Barré, and Guillain-Barré is something that can kill you. It does in some cases, not usually. Persons tend to recover. But look at the stats again. 200 people got Guillain-Barré out of 12.8 million persons. That's like 0.00007. So the likelihood of getting it is rare. Again, important, look out for the signs and symptoms, seek medical attention early. Then this is the biggie for Pfizer. Apart from all of the run-of-the-mill ones I tell you about, there is something called myocarditis and pericarditis. All that is inflammation of the muscle of the heart and inflammation of the tissues around the heart. And they have found that it does cause this inflammation in young persons, especially males under the age of 30, usually 16 to 30 young adults. Of all the persons who have received Pfizer across the world, 674 persons have been diagnosed with this condition. None have died. The treatment is supportive care. So persons will rest, they will get their proper fluids, they will be able to maintain their diet. They may need to get medication, but they usually recover. How do you know you're having this inflammation? It comes with chest pain, it comes with shortness of breath. So if you're having chest pain, your child is complaining of chest pain, having shortness of breath, you take them to a facility to be reviewed so that we can allay fears. But the rare occurrence is myocarditis and pericarditis. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 vaccines are safe, they are effective, they save lives, they will allow us to return to normal, they will allow our children to go back to school, to go back to learning, go back to socializing and learning those skills of interaction. And we will get a break as parents. But seriously, our kids must go back to school, because they are going to fall behind if we don't get them back. And our economy, of course, needs to be open. So we need to stop the watch, wait, and see now. I don't know what else we're looking for. We have administered in the world over 4.9 billion doses. 1.9 billion persons are fully vaccinated, and them don't dead, and them don't change into any other person, and they're not being tracked, and they haven't contaminated their body with any fetal tissue. They are well. We have vaccinated over 400,000 persons in Jamaica, and the 400,000 people, they're kind of like still with us. Nothing done wrong with them. So we started Pfizer. Yesterday. Congratulations to all the parents who took their children and also got vaccinated. When I checked last before I came on, we had vaccinated over 18,000 persons. And as I glanced a while ago, I'm seeing 21,000. So persons are taking up the Pfizer vaccine, or children. But I can tell you we have 2040, we have 94,000 students that will be doing exit exams come next year. So 18,000 to the 94,000, remember I said those doing exit exam must go into face-to-face. Exit exam, them going into grade 11, grade 12, and grade 13. Yeah. So it's 94,000 of them we have in the country. So this 18,000 is a drop in the pan. So if you have a child, we're doing everything, everyone, 12 to 18. But 15 to 18 priority because they need to go to school come September, October. 94,000, I say we have. How much we do? This is just a mere poops. So we've got to be doing better. So we have sites across the island. We have sites in schools up until Tuesday. We'll see what happens after that, if we need to open more sites in the schools. But we have sites in our health centers. We ask that persons make an appointment, but you don't have to make an appointment these 4 days. You have tomorrow and you have Tuesday to go out and get vaccinated. Get your child vaccinated. You don't need the appointment. You just need to walk in. You must carry your government issued ID because you're going to take a joke to remember. You must, if you don't have no ID, you can get a letter from a JP. You walk with your TRN number. The kids bring their birth certificates. Person said them not have no birth certificate, carry the school ID, but the children need to go and get vaccinated. Once they reach the site, they're going to get a little registration process. They're going to get some counseling. They're going to tell you everything that they tell you this evening about the Pfizer vaccine, and to make you don't feel so afraid. And by the time them don't tell you, they're going to know sick you and the child, and they won't even know that you get the joke. It finished already because our nurses, the inoculators, are skilled like that. And then we're going to observe you. Yes, you have to stay with us a little, 15 minutes. And if all is well, we send you away with your card and give you a date to come back for your second dose. For Pfizer, is 21 days, 3 weeks. So if you get your vaccine now by about the 11th, 12th, 13th of September, you're coming back for your next dose. Child and parents to get the second dose, and you're fully immunized 14 days after that. So you're going to know that's from the 13th, 14th or so of September, 2 weeks. By the 1st of October, you are ready to go out face-to-face class. And that basically is it. We believe that vaccines will help us to get back to normal. People can go to church, man can go drink a bar, they can socialize, people can get, we can celebrate the death of our loved ones in fine style, because they contributed so much. And we believe that vaccines will help us to get back to what is normal. And for us on this platform, the Pfizer vaccine will help our children to get back to normal. I'm going to hand over to the chair after I thank you so very much for your rapt attention. Madam Chair, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ennis, for your very interesting presentation. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for listening so rapidly. I noticed that there are quite a few hands raised. We'll be calling on you shortly, and there are quite a number of questions in the chat as well. I am going to ask Doc I'm going to pose the questions to you, Doc, and ask if you could respond to them. Just give me 1 minute here. Let me start off with a question from the chat, the very first question. 1 second, let me scroll back up. What are the side effects of the vaccine research What are the side effects of the vaccine? Research is saying it causes blood clot. And another question is, does the vaccine contain the virus itself like the other vaccines? Let's start with those two, Doc.
Right. So the Pfizer vaccine that your child is going to get does not contain the virus at all. And most persons are saying that the vaccines that they have taken all contain, not all of the vaccines contain the virus. Different platforms are used to make different types of vaccines. But the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, the AstraZeneca, the Johnson & Johnson, they do not contain the virus at all. Research is not showing that the vaccine causes clots. It is plausible that you may get a clot. There has been some increased incidence of clotting in a small number of persons that have received the vaccine, and therefore the alert is out that if you develop pain in the calf, if you develop shortness of breath, if you develop chest pains, if you have a history of clots, then you are to seek medical attention after getting the vaccine. And that is the AstraZeneca vaccine that is seen with.
Okay, Doc. Another question is, if a child is ill, should he or she take the vaccine?
No, we do not give vaccines to ill persons at all. So just like when you were small and you're taking the child, and if the baby have a fever and vomiting and all that, nurse is going to tell you, no, 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 baby have to get better just the same. You have to be well to get the vaccine. And I'm going to beg of everybody, the vaccines are here. You will get it when you get better. Do not mask the symptoms. Do not mask the sickness and take Panadol and cough medicine and go and take the vaccine. It is not going to help. You are still going to have whatever you have. Please just wait until your child is better. Then the child will be vaccinated.
Okay. I'm going to take a question from one of the persons who have raised their hand, Doc. The first person I'm going to call on is Avagay Green. Could you please unmute and ask your question? Avagay Green. Okay, I'm not sure if she's having a challenge unmuting her mic. I'm going to move on to the next person, Marsha McKenzie. Marsha McKenzie, please unmute and ask your question.
Yes, you're hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yes, I would like to know, like, they're saying that the vaccine are being fat and certain things that they normally find in food. So if the child can eat it, why give them the vaccine? And for the parents, I have a second part. And for the parents, I am a parent. I have heart-related disease. I have hypertension, and I also have blood clot. Yeah, I have a lot of blood clot in my heart. So I am not comfortable with taking something that even is 0.01% giving you blood clot. You know what I mean? So what is the advice on those two situations?
Well, let us start with the first one. I said that there are some additives in the vaccine that help to keep it stable. And I said some of the additives are the same additives we use in food. So I'm not saying that the vaccine is a food and you can eat it. I'm saying that just like how you would have a tin of beans and it is in the liquid that is the preservative to keep it, and they tell you that once you open it, you have to put it in the fridge. It is that preservative I'm talking about. It is not that the vaccine can be or is a food to be eaten. With regards to your second question about your underlying issues, we have found that persons with these underlying issues, when they get COVID, if they get COVID, then their outcome is not too good. If you look at the persons who are dying, it is persons with these underlying conditions. I note you mentioned that it is, even if it is a very small percentage, a 0.01, you are not prepared to take that risk, and that is fine. But you can just imagine that there are many other things that can pose a problem to the clot and the narrowing in your heart. For example, the foods that we eat, all of the fats that we eat, from all of the fried things, are all things that will give us a larger than a 0.1% chance of having those illness. So we really just have to put things in perspective. But again, the vaccines are not mandatory and persons have a choice. You weigh the risks of taking the vaccine or getting COVID.
Don't have a choice.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Marsha. Moving on to the next person. I see that Courtly Ann has put down her hand. Moving on to Charlene. Charlene, can you go ahead and unmute and ask your question?
Good afternoon. Are you hearing me?
Yes, yes.
Right. So I have multiple questions, but I'll just bring it down to two. One as it relates to back to school, and the other one as it relates to the vaccine. Let me start with the vaccine one. I'm in disagreement that the vaccine here is similar to the normal vaccines that we knew when we were children and we grew up and trust them, because this current one is made up of the mRNA substance, and it's totally different. My concern is that how safe is it? The government and doctors keep reiterating that it is safe, but how can a vaccine that is still under emergency use, not approved by FDA, be and not undergone at least 5 years of testing, be okay for my 14-year-old child? Okay, so to me, it is not the amount of persons that has gone through the testing process, but it is the length of time that is needed for the testing to actually bear fruit. So my concern, there's not enough time being placed to observe persons who have been vaccinated to see whether or not additional adverse reactions can occur. I am not willing to risk my child's health or life for that. Okay, and secondly now, as it relates to back to school, what guarantee do I have that my unvaccinated child will get the same treatment in school and same type of treatment than the ones who are in the Those are my questions.
Well, Miss Charlene, your first statement wasn't a question. You have stated that you are not giving your 14-year-old child the vaccine. And the second question, I am not an educator. I'm not in the education system. I could not venture to answer if your child, if there's a guarantee that your child will not be discriminated against. For the Ministry of Health and Wellness, at this time, the vaccines and the government of Jamaica, the vaccines are not mandatory. But for whatever we do, all of us, there are consequences to our actions. Whatever we do, there are consequences, and persons are prepared to face whatever the consequences are. You know, yea and nay, and you make a choice. So if yea is what you choose, then 1, 2, 3 might happen. And if nay is what you choose, then 1, 2, 3 might happen. And you are prepared to stand up and face those. So unfortunately, I'm unable to provide any further information on your questions. I'm sorry.
My question was asked, I was asking, is it safe? That was what I was asking.
Well,
based on what I said.
Well, my dear, I can only tell you the science as I know it, that the vaccines are safe. It is not the length of time that is used to ascertain safety. It is really the number of persons that have taken the medication and there is no ill effect happening to them. You know, it is very interesting because other medications that use clinical trials, the average number of persons that are within the clinical trials is about 5,000 persons, you know. These vaccines are using hundreds of thousands of persons. But you see, before nobody spoke about that and came out and said this vaccine trial was this amount of persons. It's just now that everything is in everybody's face through social media. But the vaccines are safe because they have been tried and proven. They went through animal studies. They have gone through the safety trials. You can't go from phase 1 to phase 2 unless it is safe. Nobody dies from taking it. There is no untoward effect that persons have. At 4.2 billion doses, that might be more than many of the vaccines that we would have taken. People are still wondering. I can't tell you anything further. The only other thing I can say is that based on what we know of vaccines and how they operate and that they do not live in our bodies forever and ever, amen, that the side effects usually are no longer than after about 60 days maximum, what we have seen. Everybody is saying that the vaccine platform is different. Yes, the messenger RNA platform is different, but as we create and make more medicines, we use different technologies. We improve over time.
Okay. Before I take another question from the chat, I am going to ask Amoy Levers to please unmute and ask your question.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, all protocols observed.
Oops, we lost you.
Amoy?
We lost you.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
Until Amoy comes back, let me move over to Tanya, I think it is. Tanya, please unmute and ask your question. Tanya, we'll have to move quickly tonight. So there are a lot of persons with questions. Tanya, can you unmute?
Good night. You hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
All right. As she said, the vaccine is not mandatory, right? So I don't have to give it to my 14-year-old.
That is your choice.
That's the question. That's the question, Tanya?
Yes, it's a question. Since it's not mandatory, I don't have to give it to my 14-year-old, right?
Right, Doc?
No, miss, you don't have to give it to your 14-year-old. That is a choice that you will make. That's not the advice that we're giving to persons, but it is your choice. You will weigh the risks of your child getting COVID, your child being susceptible to this variant and other variants, that if there are more persons like you who are not willing to take the vaccine and have your child get vaccinated, then more variants will come that may be more damaging to the population in the global sense. But it is your choice, miss.
Okay. Honestly, I'm really not into it, to be honest, and I think the government is actually pushing it on the parents to say, hey, if you don't take the vaccine, your child cannot do face-to-face. I think we need a choice. You know, make we take it. If we take it and anything happen down the line, then we comfortable know say, are we go take it off ourselves? But at the end of the day, in just a push it power. No. I think we need a choice.
It is not mandatory, right, Tanya? Which means you have a choice.
All right, ma'am. For now.
All right, thank you so much for your question.
We don't know what's going to happen in the future. We can only speak to the now.
I
Thanks,
don't hear
Tanya.
you. She was
Um,
saying something. I don't hear what she said.
No,
What you
Miss
mean, Doc?
Tanya. Yeah, Miss Tanya, I was just saying that we can only speak to the now because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So for now, it's not mandatory.
Yeah, but I believe, all right, COVID is here from 2019, right? People wearing masks. Why not? The people that are not, don't want to take the vaccine, don't trust the vaccine, don't trust the government, wear their masks, sanitize, protect themselves same way. Whoever wants to go and take it, fine. And let the children come to school same way. So if I don't want my child to take the vaccine, she come to school, she wear her mask and she sanitize.
All right. Thank you for your question, Tanya. We have about 17 more people behind you, separate from the chat. But as it is right now, as Doc said, it is a choice. So once you weigh and make up your mind whether or not you're going to take it, then that decision is yours and yours only for you and your child. I have 2 persons with iPhones. That's all I'm seeing, iPhones. There's no name, just
Hello.
iPhone.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead
I
and
am
ask your question.
one of the iPhones. Good night.
Good
I
night.
was just wondering if someone has a preference for the AstraZeneca, would there be any information as to when it will be back on the island?
AstraZeneca is on the island, Miss, and AstraZeneca continues to be administered. It is just for these 4 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, when we are focusing on the children because they can only get Pfizer. But AstraZeneca is here and will resume its, actually tomorrow you can get AstraZeneca at the University Hospital as well as Mona Aging and Wellness Center. If you so desire.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for
Tanya,
that.
you can lower your hand, please, as well. If you don't have any other question, iPhone, please lower your hand too.
Will do. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Moving over to Karen Lawrence. Karen Lawrence, can you unmute?
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Hi, Miss
evening.
Karen.
I have a question. I'm living in James Hill, Clarendon. I have one child that's going to Claude McKay and the other one going up by Knox. Now I'm seeing where Knox students are supposed to go up by Spalding's Health Center, and Frankfield done by Edwin Allen is the closer address to me. And is there should bring the one for Claude McKay. So I was wondering if I get the chance to go to Frankfield, can I just the one at Knox can just get the injection there also, instead of me going to that destination and then have to go back again, go wait again up by Spalding's with the other one.
Yes, Miss Karen, you can take both of your children to any one of the sites. You don't have to go to the catchment area of the school. So whichever site is closest to you, you and your children can go and you will be vaccinated. They will be vaccinated. All right?
All right. Thank you, Ms.
Okay,
Karen.
thank
All right.
You're welcome.
All right, awesome. Moving over to Carlene Gray. Please unmute and ask your question quickly.
Hello, good night. This is actually not Carlene Gray, but Tony Lee Gray here. I just want to ask a question with regards to the AstraZeneca. I know that we're here to speak mostly about the Pfizer for the children, but you talked about one of the side effects being blood clots, and this is you're saying that it is not common, but based on my observation over the time, I've realized that many other countries have banned this specific vaccine, like Sweden, France, Portugal, Italy, the list goes on. Germany, why do we continue to give this to our people? Why have we accepted it? Why do we deem it safe? What is different about it here for us than these many other countries that have banned that specific vaccine.
So, Miss
The
Gray,
AstraZeneca, not the Pfizer, the AstraZeneca.
yes, I'm hearing you, and you will also need to read that these countries have resumed the administration of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, the surveillance system, which is a system to detect if something goes wrong when you give a vaccine, was working and continue to work. So when they recognized that something was happening, they withdrew it. But after the subsequent tests, they recognized that the benefits outweigh the risk, and all of those countries you have named continue to inoculate with AstraZeneca, my dear. So we have to read the whole story. Yes, it was stopped, but it was restarted.
Yes, but based on
But
what
it
I
was
am seeing,
restarted.
these countries have been promoting other vaccines. They haven't really gone. The marketing that Jamaica is placing on AstraZeneca, the emphasis is not in these other countries. They're praising the Moderna and the Pfizer, but I'm not really seeing that emphasis being put on AstraZeneca as it is here in Jamaica.
Well, first of all, my dear, you have to look at marketing and you have to look at where the vaccine was manufactured. Most of our news comes out of the US of A. The US of A does not make AstraZeneca, will not be promoting AstraZeneca. They make Pfizer and Moderna. So that is what we're hearing. Now, there are lots of medications that we take that are not used in the US of A. But the FDA is not the only.
I'm getting some feedback from somebody's microphone that's open. Can you please mute?
Okay, right. So what happened? Are you still hearing me?
Yes,
We're
I'm
hearing
still
you
here.
now.
I'm listening.
Okay, right. So I really was saying that where we get our majority of our information is out of the US. The US has not did not make AstraZeneca. It doesn't manufacture it, so it is not promoting it in any way. They manufacture Pfizer and Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and those are what we're hearing about. We received the AstraZeneca vaccine to begin inoculating the population because all the vaccines that have been approved by the World Health Organization are safe vaccines and effective vaccines. We will have in country a variety of vaccines over time, but we had to use the safe and efficacious vaccine to begin inoculating our population. And we will continue because the vaccine is proven safe and has the stamp of seal from the World Health Organization.
Okay, thank you. Can I just have one last question? Okay. With regards to the different companies, right? Because you say the Pfizer and the Moderna, they are being pushed by
detectives, the guys that go around looking for intruders, looking for trouble.
Excuse me, could you ask that person to mute? I can't hear. Yes, as I was saying, since there are different manufacturers, is it that the makeup of the AstraZeneca is different from the Moderna or the Pfizer? Or let me more specifically ask about the Pfizer, because that is the one that is being recommended for the children. Is there a difference between the makeup in the ingredients?
The ingredients are similar, but it uses a different platform, miss. The Pfizer uses the messenger RNA technology, where they modified the messenger RNA and use the genetic code from a bit of the spike protein on the coronavirus. The AstraZeneca and the Johnson utilizes the viral vector technology, where they use the same genetic code, but it is placed now within a inert or a shell that has no effect or can cause any disease, and they inject it into us. So it's two different platforms, but the end result is the same. The end result is that they stimulate the body to produce the germ fighting tools.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Sadine James. Sadine James.
Good night.
Good night.
My question is, I think I have one question. After being vaccinated, how long is the defense? How long does it last? How long are you protected against the virus?
So we don't know. The studies have started to look at how long artificial immunity, which is what you receive, will last.
Hello?
So we don't know that it is believed because it is a virus and their survival strategy is to change. It is believed that we may need to take a vaccine on an annual basis, similar to the flu vaccine that is offered every year. They've also been thinking that it may be possible that booster shots are needed, but we are not there yet. There is no concrete evidence to suggest any of that. It is just persons postulating or thinking what may happen. Right? For now, we are really just trying to get the population of Jamaica and the world protected against COVID, and it means vaccination now.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Carrie Ann. Moving on now to Michelle Carr.
Bless, good afternoon.
Hi.
I mean, all protocols have already been observed. Amen. So, first question is, how safe is a vaccine for a child who has constant severe allergies, constant headaches, still has pains from the chikungunya that passed a couple years ago? Second question, we are being advised to take the vaccine, yet I know people who have taken the vaccine and still yet have caught the COVID-19 after taking it. So why should we really take the vaccine?
The vaccines have been designed to prevent severe illness, hospitalization, and death. You can get the disease after you have taken the vaccine, but your illness will be shortened and it will not be severe. You will not need to be hospitalized, and chances are you won't die. So those are the reasons for taking the vaccine. Nobody has ever said that if you take the vaccine, you will never catch the disease. And there is no vaccine at all, even the childhood vaccines, that are 100%. There is no medication that is 100%. So if you look at the bell curve, there are persons on the outside who will get the disease, but it is the severity that it will be lessened, the duration that will be much shorter, and you will not die. If you think back at chickenpox, a lot of persons gave their children the chickenpox vaccine, and they did get chickenpox, but they got 1 or 2 pimples, and the scratching was not a lot, and they were up and running about. So yes, you can get the illness, but it is the severity and the prolonged illness that will be shortened.
Oh, so what about the child who has the severe allergies, constant headaches, and still has pain from chikungunya? What's the diagnosis for that person?
Well, it is unfortunate that they're having these prolonged reactions to that illness. Someone with high or who is very allergic to a lot of things. Remember, I said that it is the components of the vaccine that we look for allergies in, not just general allergy to medications, to other medications, or even foods. Now, in these persons, if they are being vaccinated, then we take special precautions. Remember, I said persons are observed for 15 minutes. These persons will be observed for 30 minutes. We have resuscitative equipment on site at all of our vaccination sessions should something happen, but we do take special precautions with these persons who give such a history of allergy.
Okay, and one is allergic to penicillin. So basically what you're saying, you have resuscitative machines that can resuscitate them. But what if, God forbid?
Before you continue, I'm saying that if you have an allergy to penicillin, it does not mean that you have an allergy to this vaccine. Penicillin allergy and allergy to the vaccine are two different things. That is what I'm saying. I also said that should the unfortunate case be that anybody at all gets an allergy to any medication, the vaccine or otherwise, our services are such that we can treat the allergic reaction. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. We have 20 more persons. Anne-Marie, you are next, followed by Amoy Levers. And I'm going to, before you start, Anne-Marie, I'm just going to ask the persons who are waiting to ask questions, if your question is answered by the doctor in reference to another question asked by someone else, I'm going to ask that you not re-ask that same question. Thank you. Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
I'm in Hanover, and my sister is attending on Green Island High School. And where do I let her get the vaccine?
Hearing you clearly, Anne-Marie. Go ahead. Speak up some more for me.
I can't leave Hanover, and sister girl.
Miss Anne-Marie, I'm not hearing you, please.
Anne-Marie?
Yes.
Can you speak up some more? We're not hearing you clearly.
I am asking, I'm hearing the government is locking down for 3 days. How can I get the vaccine? And you said tomorrow and another day, and I'm living in Hanover.
Miss Mitzi, can you translate for me? Did you hear clearly,
Yes,
please?
she says that she's living in Hanover. And
okay.
because we are on lockdown for the next 3 days, if she wants to go and get the vaccine tomorrow or Tuesday, how can she go about that?
Well, you are allowed to move around if you are going for the vaccine, going to a vaccination site. I believe in Hanover, Lucy Health Center and Hopewell will be open.
Oh, she don't reach.
1 second.
I was on a call today with education, and I hear that they are organizing for transport for out of some of their schools for the rural areas. So I'm going to ask you to get in touch with your school, your child's school, to see if transport will be provided to take you to the vaccination site.
And following on that question, Doc, is it that for those persons who will be accessing the sites during the lockdown period, are they required to book the appointment online?
No.
To show that evidence to the police?
No, they don't have to book online. They can be walk-in. They will just need to explain to the police that they're going for to the vaccination site.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Moving on. Amoy, are you back online? Amoy?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, please go ahead with your question.
Yes, I'm here. You're hearing me?
Yes.
As I was saying, it was a question, but it was just to encourage persons to look into what we are facing and do your own research. You know, the information is out there to quell the fears, because I know persons are fearful and all of that. But information is there to lead you to the truth, because the truth can't hide. As I said, I got my double dose of AstraZeneca earlier, you know, and I took my daughter yesterday to get her first shot, and she made that decision herself after doing her own research. She said, of course, she's ready. When she looked at what is happening, she said, Mommy, I'm ready. She'll be going into fifth form come September. You understand? And parents, if we're really wanting our children to move ahead, the lagging or the backlog with the education system, parents, look into what is happening and put our children forward. I'm not saying that you have to just run and take it up, because of course some persons might have underlying issues and you want to question. Speak to your doctor, but it is in our best interest, our children's best interest, to take up the vaccine, right? It is better to die trying than don't try none at all. Understand, parents? And that is just my contribution to this.
Thank you so much, Amoy.
You're welcome.
Anthea Mackenzie, can you please unmute and ask your question?
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Are you guys hearing me?
I am hearing you, but there's somebody else whose microphone is open. Can you please mute? Only the persons asking questions are to be unmuted now. Go ahead, Anthea.
My question is, if we do take the vaccine, is there a slight chance that it may affect us in the long run?
That has not been the trend in the over 200 years that we're using vaccines, that they affect persons in the long run. So if we're using history to guide us, then the history is not there for that. And we have changed over this time and used different platforms for making vaccines. And we have never had any long-term effects. So there is a change now, but based on what we have done over the last 200 years, it is not likely that any such thing will happen.
Okay. Thanks, Doc. Back to the chat, there is another question. Well, a whole heap of questions. This one says, but you said that phase 3 takes decades for testing and research and findings and review, and this vaccine is just here about 1 year now. What were the findings from the mass testings?
So let me try and repeat what I said about phase 3 testing. Phase 3 testing requires that thousands of persons are involved in this trial who come in contact with the disease, who are of varying ethnicities, varying ages, etc. And in order to recruit persons across the world, this is usually the longest phase in the trials, because across the world, the disease that you are trying to investigate was not ever popular, for the want of a better word. It did not affect older people. It did not affect males and females. It was difficult to find persons to place in the clinical trial. It could take up to 12 years to get that mass of persons. That was usually about 5,000 to 10,000 persons to participate. So the limiting factor of the trial was the number of participants. What changed last year was because we are in a pandemic, the disease was everywhere in the world. All sorts of people were being affected, black, white, pink, yellow, everybody. So it was therefore much easier, and it took a much shorter time to recruit persons into the phase 3 trial. So that 10 to 12 year recruiting period was cut down to mere weeks, simply because you could find persons who were exposed to the disease to place in your trial utilizing your vaccine.
Thank you. One more question from the chat. Well, I think Florette's question regarding the Pfizer vaccine. She said she researched the Pfizer vaccine and it shows that it causes myocarditis in adolescents. Why is this so? I don't think it's a myth. I remember you saying something about myocarditis and
I did not say it was a myth. I said it was a side effect. I said 674 cases have been confirmed of the persons who have received Pfizer vaccine. Yes, you can get pericarditis and myocarditis from taking the Pfizer vaccine, but it is rare. Of all the billions of persons taking Pfizer, I said 674 have been confirmed. So yes, you can get it. And I also said that these persons have not died. Most of them have recovered. It is seen in persons 16 to 30, especially males. I did say so.
Okay, great. According to the CDC, the vaccine has the potential to cause serious allergic reactions. What if the child is unable to take the vaccine due to a history of allergies or unable to take the second dose due to a reaction to the first? What provisions are in place to facilitate their education? Well, in answer to that, I would imagine that they would have to, if they're not able to follow through with the second dose, as it relates to education, there's blended learning that is going to resume face-to-face and online. So if a child is not able to go through with the face-to-face, then online they will have to resort to. But that is to be followed through on a discussion with your school and the Ministry of Education. On the medical part of it, Doc, may I ask that you answer if they're not able to?
On the medical part of it, remember I spoke to herd immunity, that you need a particular number of persons in any society to be protected so that they can form a barrier around persons who truly cannot take the vaccine. So there are some persons who, for medical reasons, cannot take the vaccine, but it is upon us to provide that barrier around them so that they won't get ill. What does that mean? When you have enough persons in the society being vaccinated, as we have with measles and chickenpox and mumps and rubella, so we have like 95 to 100% of our children vaccinated. It means that the few who can't, when the virus moves from Sylvia to Terence to me to Kelly, it won't take root, it won't be able to replicate, it won't be able to live because we are immune. So it goes and goes and it eventually dies. It don't have anywhere to go, and it protects Kelly, who can't take the vaccine, because we have formed a shield around her. And that is why the onus is on us who can take the vaccine to protect those who can't. Most persons don't realize this, that we have this responsibility, unless it is their child or themselves that is at risk, vulnerable, and cannot take, and begging people to help to protect them.
Okay, thank you. The next person, Thomas. Thomas had a question. Are you still there? If not, we are going to be moving on to. You're still there?
I'm still.
Okay.
Yes, I'm still.
Go ahead and ask the question quickly.
Yeah, question about I think it was Charlene. Charlene asked a question earlier about the education perspective. Also about the fact of the long-term impact possibilities. I'm not sure if her question was answered well. Why? Because the Jamaicans out there observing everyone and concerns out there, I think that's a majority concern. The impact of it having maybe an unbiased sound when responding. Persons like to see research on both ends, saying being quite frank with our concerns as well as showing us facts, based on the fact that the clinical trial testing will be available in 2 years. Persons might be uncomfortable to take the vaccine. It's not that we feel forced. And if you know your history well, it's not a good thing to force a Jamaican. it can turn right back at it, but it's a good thing to educate them. I do understand that perspective. But how can we show them without trying to say that, hey, you have to do this? How can you show them a choice, not only to, if you don't go there, so you just have to do this? What the choice is, like a choice is that one is an indirect force. It feels like an indirect enforcement of our children being vaccinated, or us. So we are kind of uncomfortable as Jamaicans, and I think if the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health, because when she asked the question about Charlene asked about the school, she asked about discrimination, and you say the person responded by saying that she's not a part of the education sector. I should be able to say that, hey, your child will not be discriminated against. Discrimination would not be. Why you need to say that you're not an educator, so you can't talk for that? The Jamaica, so if we go to school September and feel as if we are being discriminated against our children, we should be able to go to the Minister of Health to say that it's not mandatory. Why are the schools discriminating my child? But the presenter said that she cannot answer about that. And I have a major problem with that, because it goes to show that I might not have someone to go to when September morning come and I have an issue. So it is an indirect forcing. That's how we feel. And until the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health really try to get to what we are thinking or what we're feeling, I don't believe the numbers are going to significantly raise until they really talk to us from that perspective and get us to really,
Okay, Thomas.
Mr. Thomas, Mr. Thomas, I want to thank you so very much for your comments, and may I apologize for saying that I'm not education. I listened to you, and in retrospect, I'm apologizing, sir. I made it quite clear that the vaccines are not mandatory. I am not sure why persons think that they're being forced into taking the vaccines. The vaccines are not mandatory. I made my comment because I heard what education said. Somebody was asking about choices, and that somebody brought up the word discrimination as well. And what I really am saying is that the blended approach will be offered. I hear education saying that they're really wanting persons to be vaccinated who sit face to face, and they would prefer, if you are not vaccinated, for you to utilize the online platform. Now, that is a decision that is being taken out of education. I am a Jamaican. I work with the government, and it is a one government affair. So I hear you, and I understand, and I believe you will always have someone to come to on the 1st of September, because at this time, we are not advocating for the vaccines to be mandatory. Persons have a choice. My only challenge, sir, is that when the information is presented, some persons, they are very adamant in what they believe, and that is okay. But you cannot be presenting credible information and persons don't accept it. I presented all sides of the coin. I showed clearly the side effects. I showed clearly the statistics that these things do happen. I also said that we try to treat them as best as we can, and that the benefits do outweigh the risks of taking the vaccines. I have said all of that. I am not denying that persons may not get a clot. I'm not denying that children may not get a myocarditis or a pericarditis. I am not denying that someone may get an allergic reaction. These things can happen. These things do happen, but they are very rare. I cannot say otherwise, because those are the facts.
Yes, because I like the answer, as well as the issue I believe is happening in Jamaica also. You said that if someone came on earlier on, I think it's Amoy, saying that if you do research, you will take the vaccine. That is, I don't think she need to say that. Why? Because persons are doing research and they're finding their mind might go otherwise. So I need to make research.
Research goes both ways. Research goes both ways, Thomas, as you say, because you can research and determine not to.
Yes, so it might be an interpretation from your research. So I don't think that was safe to really say. But the issue I have, Doc, is the fact that even other doctors have issue, even Dr. Abrams, I know you might see that thing where he was speaking about ivermectin, and we can obviously see that persons who speak about certain other options is like you're being, you're being tossed away, or so that's it.
Mr. Thomas, let me tell you something now. You see, you have to be careful about mixing the conversation. Now, remember, Dr. Abrahams is talking about a treatment, okay? He's talking about a treatment. So you are sick and the doctor wants to give you something to try and help you. That's a treatment. We're talking about a different thing. We're talking about a vaccine that will prevent you from Dr. Abraham needing to treat you. So you can't mix the things. It's two separate things, and we're not at odds, and we're not different. It's just two different things. There's an arm of public health that is looking at the general population, what can be done for a lot of persons to help to keep them safe. And then you have another arm which is looking at when you do get sick and you are in hospital, or to try and prevent you from getting to hospital, what medications can you use? So we are not at odds at all, sir. It's just different things complementing the whole course of this COVID pandemic.
Thank you so much, Doc, and thank you very much, Mr. Thomas, for your question. I will be moving on now to Ms. Carolyn Sinclair. Please unmute your mic and go ahead with your question, followed by Dr. Vivian Carr.
Good evening. My question is, what persons with certain type of illness, who would you not recommend to take the vaccine?
Persons who are severely immunocompromised, persons who have who are on chemotherapeutic agents that has lowered their immune system, persons who are currently on IV immunosuppressive therapy. It's those persons who we would want to wait and have a conversation with their oncologist to see when they can accept the vaccine. But in general, if you have underlying conditions and you are well, you are advised to take the vaccine, because the outcome of COVID in persons with these conditions is usually not good.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Carr?
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Interim President, and good evening, everyone. All protocols observed. I have about 2 or 3 questions. I'll quickly put them together into maybe one A and B. The challenge I know we are now facing has to do with the hospitals being filled, but we are aware that Jamaica's success over the years has been with primary health care. So the question is, what really is being done to get our people fully, give them access to health care in terms of the health insurance plan? I know the government wanted to roll that out some years ago, started and it stopped along the way. But I have a child who's asthmatic, and I know that the earlier you stop, if they have an illness, then the better the prognosis will be, meaning that they won't end up in the hospitals. So what is the government, the Ministry of Health, doing about that, giving them access, not necessarily to go to the clinics now, which are closed at night, but to be able to say go to their medical doctor because they have health insurance? That's one. And then 2, we're speaking to persons who have access to online learning now and the facility to have this conversation. Is the ministry also going into the nook and crannies of Jamaica to ensure that persons are being educated about the need to take this vaccine? And what happens if those children in rural Jamaica who do not have an online access, the parents, or for some reason, whether illness or the parents decides not to have them take the vaccine, does that mean that they will forever be left out of the education sector? I'd like to have those questions answered, please, if you're in a position to.
So, Dr. Carr, I can attempt to answer based on the proclamations of the government that they are trying to have broadband and fiber optic access to the internet across the island. They're working assiduously at ensuring that access is given. I believe most things take time, and maybe not every nook and cranny has received same, but there may be centralized areas that have. So there is a push to have access so persons can utilize the online method of learning. There's also the push over the past year to provide devices to students so that they are not left behind. I'm sure we all know that it is never enough, but it is a start and persons are trying. The various alumni associations have also assisted because it is not just the onus is not just on government, but it's on all of us to help when we can and where we can. So I know that most schools have mobilized their alumni associations to contribute into ensuring that the young ones are given the requisite devices to use. So with all of that, more persons are coming on board. With regards to the Ministry of Health and Wellness going into every nook and cranny of the island, you would have heard that we have started our community mobilization and engagement so that access to the vaccines can be taken to persons. We started and we continue along a phased basis, and it was very dependent on the numbers of vaccines we have or had in country. So when we started, we had limited supply. As the supply gets more and more and the branding gets more and more, we are able to take the vaccines to persons, and you will see the community involvement as we proceed.
But about the aspects of access to primary health care and the health cards that
access to primary health care has always been, and it is free of cost at the point of service. The government continues to work at instituting a national insurance scheme for the country that continues. It is not complete at this time, but it is being worked on. But persons are able to access primary health care. Yes, the clinics are not open in the nights, but all of our hospitals are open. Our hospitals have both an emergency room and a casualty that is open 24 hours, so persons can access that facility. And
yes, but the hospitals are full, and we're trying to prevent it from getting to the tertiary sector. So if we have them having access to be able to go to the doctors to get their prescription filled, then they won't end up in the hospital. I would have really.
My dear doctor, if you need a prescription, you can get it at primary care. You don't need to get the prescription at night when primary care is closed. If you need a prescription and you need to have your child reviewed because you don't want your child to get to this point of a hospital, then that is not an emergency, and that can be done during the daylight hours when the health centers are open. and you can and will get your prescription written for your child. And you can also access the pharmacy services and get the medication for your child. So that those services are available.
May I recommend that you ask the Ministry of Health to spend as much money as they're doing on COVID and fixing that part so that parents can get better access to services. And I'm speaking from, as I said, I had a child who was asthmatic, and we know that you take care of it early, and it can be any time of the night that they have an attack. It doesn't have to be in the day. So it can, in fact, especially a child is asthmatic, which is we're dealing with a respiratory disease now, right? So if that child gets an asthma attack, then it could be in the night. And most time that's when they get the attacks, by the way, right? In the early mornings, right? And so the clinics are closed. Is the ministry also providing online telecare? So you can call a doctor online and say, this is happening. The doctor will give you the prescription so that the few pharmacies that may be open, because many of them are closed at night too, can also be able to attend to your child so they don't end up in the hospital. That's where I'm not seeing the emphasis, unfortunately.
Okay. So add to what Dr. Carr. Thank you, Dr. Carr. I can see where you're going with that because myself on Wednesday morning at 2 a.m. had to rush my younger son to the university hospital. And we actually waited by casualty. The doctor came out to us, took our contact and went in and we did a telephone interview. He asked him all the questions and that was basically it. And then he came out and did some final tests on us. So most of the interaction was via telephone. But I do get your point. That experience was quite shocking and it was on account of COVID. Thanks. Moving on now, I know a lot of hands have been up for a very long time. Let me touch on Melissa. Are you still there? Can you unmute and ask your question, please?
Yes, I'm still here. Good night. My question is, the other night I was watching TVJ News and Shamila asked the doctor, she was interviewing a doctor, and she asked how much percentage of the doctors took the vaccine. I don't remember his name, but he said less than 56%. And she asked him, why is it that you, because he asked, did you take it? And the doctor said, no, what he did was some antigen test. And the antigen test that she did shows that he doesn't have to take the vaccine. So instead of just pushing the vaccine on us to take it, why not introduce and say, all right, you have this test to take, because the doctors are doing it. They are the doctors and they're not taking the vaccine. He said that he did some antigen test and the antigen test shows that he doesn't need to take the vaccine. And he said less than 56% of the doctors take the vaccine. So I want to know, why is it that we don't push that to say, all right, you might not want to take the vaccine. It doesn't have to be mandatory, but take the antigen test. And if it proves that you don't need the vaccine, then you don't need it, just like how the doctors are doing. Secondly, if somebody had a stroke before, and you know, stroke is where they get blood clots, and so are they still supposed to take the vaccine?
So thank you for the questions. There is no increased evidence based on the studies conducted that if you have had a stroke and you take the vaccine, you're more likely to get another stroke. There is no such evidence at this time.
But will you get blood in that stroke leads to blood clot, because you have to take blood thinner so that your blood can flow. So if you're on blood thinner, because it prevents the clots, will not the vaccine give you more clots?
And I'm trying to tell you that that is not what the studies have shown. They have not seen that there is any increased risk of developing a clot when you're on blood thinners. That is what the studies show. There is no increased risk of developing a clot if you are on blood thinners or if you have had an embolic stroke before. Until that change, that is all I can say. The evidence is not supporting that if you are on blood thinners or had that kind of stroke, you are not to take the vaccine. That evidence is not there at this time. Now, I'm not sure about the statistics that was presented. The statistics that I have says that approximately 80% of the doctors have taken the vaccine. The overall healthcare, may I finish? The overall healthcare personnel, it's about 60% overall. But if you pull out the doctors, more doctors have been vaccinated or have accepted the vaccination than other members of the healthcare team. So overall, we are at about 65%. But for doctors in particular, it is higher. Now, and the doctor did not, well, I am going to say that the doctor may have been referring to an antibody test, that he would have done his antibodies, and his antibodies are high. Now, you get antibodies if you have had the disease. So that doctor was fortunate to have had the disease and survive, and he's monitoring his antibodies. 4.odd million persons have had the disease and they have died. They have not lived to monitor their antibodies. So as a public health specialist who is caring for the world, I don't think I could advise that you should wait, go and get the disease, then go and test your antibodies and don't take the vaccine. That would be irresponsible of me. I cannot say that. Again, the vaccines are not mandatory and persons have a choice.
Keep saying that, but each time you're saying that, you're just making it more. So just don't say it's not mandatory. I know you're saying that we have a choice, but under the circumstances, I said it indirectly. But I don't know if the same doctor you're talking about, but he didn't say he had the virus. Shimela asked him, did he take the vaccine? He said no, he saw no need for that. He did not say he had the virus. He said when he took it, as you said, his antibody was enough for him not to take it. He did not say he got the virus. So I don't know if it's
but Miss, I'm trying to tell you that you develop antibodies against the disease. If you have been sensitized, you have to be exposed to develop those particular antibodies. You have to get we don't just have antibodies for every single disease that is out there in the world. You have to get the disease or take the vaccine to be able to develop antibodies that you will monitor. So he would have had to have the disease. That's all I'm saying.
I see somebody concurring with what you said, Doc, in the chat. You don't get antibodies without the virus or vaccine.
Antibodies.
All right. Thank you so much, Melissa. For the rest of the persons coming up, Sophia Fine is next. Then Terence, I'm going to ask that you quickly restrict yourself to one question, your most burning question. We want to wrap up at 9 o'clock and we have a lot of persons still have hands up, 14. So please ask your questions quickly so that Doc can answer. And Doc has been talking from 6:30. So please bear with us as we try to get this done. Sophia Fine, after which we're going to ask Terence. Sophia Fine, if you're not Terence.
Hello, good night.
Good night.
All right. Thank you very much again for this session and this opportunity, for giving me the opportunity. Let me first say I am a strong believer of vaccine in general, as Doc has always been making references to the vaccines we've been taking from childhood coming up. I have a question. I'm just seeking for clarity. And I'm going to ask the question, and it may have two parts, but you just answer the first part so I can get some clarity. The whole purpose of going now for vaccines and going to vaccines for our children is really so that we can get back to life, get back to face-to-face classes. Teachers can come back to class, students can come back to classes, and this whole vaccination will help us to get what is called the herd immunity and help to kill the virus so we can go back to normality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that understanding clear? I just want to ensure that that is the understanding.
Doc?
Yes, it is. It is.
All right.
Okay.
All right. And that is where I'm having a little challenge now, because when I watch the infomercials, the press conferences, the commercials on the television, they're promoting vaccinate, get back to life, vaccinate so we can reach this whole herd immunity, so we can kill out the virus. And that's what I want to kill this whole stuff. But that's where I'm having a challenge, because this message that is being pushed by these infomercials is untrue, because the vaccine will not kill the virus. The vaccine, and you said it yourself to Doc, the vaccine will not prevent a person from catching the virus. The vaccine will not prevent a person from spreading the virus. So if a person can now contract the virus and can spread it, there is no way. That's why I'm having a challenge. Maybe I'm not understanding it. There's no way, based on my understanding, that we can attain this herd immunity.
So,
And
sir,
therefore,
let me try.
and therefore,
Let me try.
yes,
Complete your point.
yes, and that is where I'm having a challenge. We are
Okay.
aiming for herd immunity and killing, and the vaccine will not. How we know? Nobody said it's going to stop. But
Yeah,
based upon...
Let's go back to a little history about viruses. You see, sir? Viruses can only live and replicate inside of a cell, inside of humans, but if we're dealing with the respiratory virus, in the respiratory tract, somewhere up in the nose or down in the lung, somewhere there, okay? They can only replicate inside of us. They can't do it outside, all right? Now, when we speak to taking the vaccine and developing herd immunity, it's not for the vaccine kill the virus. It is for our bodies, when the virus gets inside of it, that it destroys it and the virus is unable to replicate. So it is unable to replicate, it is unable for us to sneeze it out and cough it out, but that can only happen when enough of us in the population can prevent the virus from replicating. So it is not the vaccine that is going to say kill the virus, it's our own bodies. And we need so many of us that when the virus bounces from me to you to somebody else, it can't go any further. There is another benefit of us killing the virus when it gets inside of us, is that it does not mutate. The more the virus spreads, the more there are susceptible people where it can replicate and spread more, is the more it changes and mutates. So what herd immunity tries to do is to prevent the virus from taking root, as we say, and multiplying more. So the more persons that are vaccinated is the more we limit this spread. We will always, like the flu virus, we may always have the coronavirus around. It will be endemic, right? It would become the norm in populations, or it may become the norm in populations, but because our immune system will have these antibodies, all of us, then we would not be seeing outbreaks and persons would not be dying. And if you look at other vaccines and not vaccines, you look at other viral infections, you know that sometimes they come in waves, because you will have a population that is immunized, you'll have a population that is resistant. But as more persons come into the population through birth who are now susceptible, then they will get the infection and you may get a rise. So you will have the endemic where it stays in the population, but because of immunity, not a problem. And then you have a spike sometimes where you get an epidemic, because you may have new persons in the population, and until everybody gets immunized again, then it goes back to endemic, and sometimes it goes out of proportion and affects the whole world as a pandemic. So that's basically the reason behind herd immunity, sir.
So then, based on what you're saying, Doc, the vaccine will now prevent the spread indirectly then? Because that's what you're saying, you know. You say when we take the vaccine, then we develop the antibodies.
We are preventing the spread. We are developing the antibodies, sir.
So
as we do for all other diseases that we take vaccines for. We develop antibodies for measles. We develop the antibodies for measles. We breastfeed our children so that the mother's antibodies can go across into the child and protect the child early in life until they get their vaccines. That's what we do. That's how it works.
And I do understand that, Doc. So is the understanding that I have, I just want to clarify something for myself. So then, can we say then the vaccine will help to prevent the spread of the virus? Well, if it's even indirectly by our bodies.
That's a simplistic way, but yes, you can say that. We wouldn't object to that. But there is an explanation, but yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm going to allow some of this, but that's why I'm having challenges, because those are contradicting statements. So, but I heard everything you said. I'm still having that challenge there with the contradicting statement. But I thank you though for the response and the opportunity for me to seek this clarity.
Awesome. Thank you to Terence. One of the things that I'm going to suggest also is that even though we have had this forum now to provide the information that is needed in guiding our parents and our families to make the decisions, to make the proper decisions based on your own understanding and your own comfort level, you can also follow through by engaging with your personal physician and doing further research. I see that Terence has been doing research and getting yourself to that comfort level to determine yes or no. But as it is, we cannot just sit right now as is. Everything is normal. How many cases came up yesterday, Doc? 749. If we do not do something, it will continue along the trajectory that it is going now. And this is what we're really trying to get rid of. On another note, where the impact on the education system is concerned, the NPTAJ will be seeking to engage the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information to arrange for a similar forum as this so that we can address the educational aspect of it. So have no fear. All right, thanks. The next person who has been waiting for a very long time is Sylvia, and then Naeem Robinson. Sylvia Davis, and then Naeem Robinson. If your questions have been answered, please lower your hands. Thank you. Sylvia, are you there? If not, we move on to Naeem.
Yes. Good evening.
Yes, but there's a lot of noise in your background, Sylvia.
Sorry. Okay, thank you. I'm asking this question. What if the child doesn't get the chance to take the vaccine? And will that child able to go to school, or the child will able to participate online or so, please?
Based on what we have been hearing so far, more than likely it will be online because we are trying to reduce the risk of exposure. Am I correct, Doc? We're trying to reduce the risk of exposure, which is part of the reason why there is a drive to get as many students vaccinated as possible, as we are trying to do for the adult population.
Yes. What if you use a teacher, you don't take the vaccine?
If you don't take if you don't take the vaccine,
yes. Left to what you heard and people saying and everything like that, you get scared at everything. What if you don't take the vaccine? You have a chance to teach online or get access to the children or what?
That is something that I expect that the Ministry of Education would make arrangements for, and the particular school where the teacher is employed.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Next, Naeem Robinson. Naeem Robinson. Moving on to Carrie Ann Mason. Carrie Ann, did you ask the question already? Yannick, is it Margage?
Hello, good night. This is Carrie Ann.
You had asked your question already, right, Carrie Ann?
No, miss.
Hello? All right, go ahead quickly because I have you as already asking your question. But go ahead quickly.
I'm asking a question. I live in a remote area in Silent Hill, and we are on a lockdown. How do I get access to take my child to get the vaccination?
Access to take the child.
The vaccine.
Where is that community located, my dear?
Silent Hill is in Clarendon. And there's no taxi running. We don't have any drive. So how do I get access to take the vaccine?
So you don't have any, you need to contact the school because the schools are making some provisions for transportation. But if your child does not get the vaccine tomorrow or Tuesday, the vaccine will continue to be available throughout the vaccine will continue to be available and you will be able to access it at our health centers. You really just need to call your nearest health center as well to find out what days they'll be giving the vaccine. So the vaccine, we're not gonna stop giving the children the vaccine come Tuesday. It's gonna continue,
Okay.
so you will have an opportunity to get it.
And you're saying it is safe, doc, to give the children. You're saying it is safe because I'm hearing a myth that it's giving heart attack, it is giving this, it is giving that. So I just want to make sure it is safe.
It is safe, miss. There are some heart conditions, as I mentioned, that children may get, but it is very rare, very, very rare. And the children who have had those conditions have so far recovered.
And doc, I'm just saying, because I live in Silent Hill and there's a health center, why can't they have like a doctor or somebody come over to our community to see if they could get access to more of the children? Because this is a remote area.
So,
and we have a health center.
All in time, miss, all in time. We are trying to get into the communities, but you have to realize that the staff at the Ministry of Health and Wellness is limited. It's the same staff that will be coming into the communities that somebody else will need to see at the clinic, the antenatal clinic for their child, the other immunization services, the curative services, same staff, miss. So you have to be patient with us. We have tried to make it central, but we will be coming into the community.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, Yannick.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. A quick question because we're wrapping up.
We're wrapping up. This mRNA vaccine, right? Is it a new technology?
It's over 10 years old.
Has it ever been used before on human beings prior to now?
In clinical trials.
In clinical trials. How many years ago was this?
They started about 12 years ago, sir.
12 years ago, but it has not been used, right? To the best of my knowledge, until this pandemic. Am I right?
Go ahead, sir. Please make your point.
Right?
Please make your point.
So there was a young lady that asked a question that states, what will be the long-term effect of this vaccine if she take it? And you answered and said to her that the history of vaccine does not show a long-term side effects then that is adverse, so to speak, right? But I am saying, if this is new, is that comparison fair to say, because this is a new technology? It is not even
and what did I say, sir? What did I, you have part quoted what I said.
Yes,
and
so
I would
appreciate
appreciate if you quote me in
right.
entirely. And I did say that based on history, utilizing various platforms. I did say that. So I did not say that just one platform. I said historically, utilizing different platforms, we have not seen long-term side effects.
Yes,
so I was not comparing it to the other vaccines. I said that you have one vaccine made ABC.
But she asked you specifically about this one, and you would have to compare it with vaccines back in the past.
Sir.
So you
No,
did
sir.
compare it.
That is not what I did. Please do not tell me what I did. I did not. If that is your interpretation, and I'm trying to correct it.
Yes, but if this is a new vaccine and she's asking you about this particular one and you're going to make reference to the past, it simply cannot answer the question that she asked. You simply cannot compare something from back there that happened so much years ago to now with something that is new, right? My next question. What about natural immunity?
Mr. Yannick.
What about natural immunity?
What about natural immunity, sir?
Yes,
Please
because let me tell you. Let me tell you. I have catch the coronavirus. My daughter is 9 and she have it. My son is 14. He has it. My daughter has 2 days of fever.
Has it or has not? They have it or did not?
They have it. They did have it.
Oh, they did have it. Okay.
My son have 2 days, right, with a headache. I took 2 weeks to recover. My lady take 2 weeks, right, and a half. So naturally now we would have had antibodies in us, right? Right. So for face-to-face class now, right, being as that we have these antibodies and we have developed what is called natural immunity, is it now necessary for any of us to take the vaccine?
Well, sir, the science again is showing that natural immunity gets less over time. So far, they have shown that it may last for up to 6 months. They're saying that after that, it gets very low and the amount of protection that is offered is not very good.
But
And
something
persons
that is synthetic lasts longer, like the messenger.
Persons, may I please be allowed to complete my sentence? And persons who have had the disease and have recovered are known to get the disease yet again. Some of them have survived the second bout, some have not. And therefore, the recommendation is for vaccination, even though you have had the illness.
All right. So for your information, to let me clarify that I had have the Delta. That's what we caught, Delta variant, right? You see, in the history of Jamaica, we have never had problems with taking a vaccine, right? And I heard you said to a gentleman that was there that if we take the vaccine, we provide a more herd immunity and more coverage, so to speak. So for those who cannot take the vaccine, we would offer more protection to these kind of people. But I heard Dr. Fauci on NBC News saying that the amount of virus that is found in a person's nasal passage, right, that is vaccinated versus a person who is unvaccinated are the same. And these people who are vaccinated are actually spreading the Delta variant. It is there, you can find it yourself. So I'm saying that.
And I'm going to ask you to read. I'm going to ask you to read the entire dissertation of Dr. Fauci.
It is something that everybody who is listening to me now can see and find for themselves.
This is your last point, please, and thank you.
This is one more point I have to ask. Please.
No, Mr. Margaret, we have 14 more people after you, and it's 9 o'clock time to wrap up, sir. Sorry about that.
One more, please.
No, sir.
Okay,
Kelly Francis, followed by Napier Chung. Please go ahead quickly.
Hi, good night. This is Kelly. So my question is, I have a daughter that is supposed to take the vaccine, and I was just checking for persons that have abnormal reaction to normal medications and stuff. Are they able to? Is it wise to let them take the vaccine, or considering the tests are only done on ordinary stuff? Like I have a wear condition where I am allergic to the sun. I am allergic to UV ray because I was born with some thing in my blood that cancel out the reaction to me going in the sun. For someone like me, am I supposed to be taking the vaccine, considering I don't know the reaction that it will have to me, and my daughter, I don't know the reaction that it will have to her? Should I be putting ourselves at risk in taking the vaccine?
So miss, your specific condition, I could not speak to it on this platform. You will need to have a conversation with your physician who is aware of your situation, and your physician will make a recommendation in consultation with the public health specialist. I could not speak to it on this forum because I do not know your history. I don't know exactly what you're allergic to, but in situations like that, we recommend that you have that conversation with your physician, and if they need additional information, they'll make contact with us at the ministry, and we will be able to guide, and we will have a consultation to see if you can or cannot take the vaccine.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks much. Moving over to Napier Chung. Guys, I am going to let you know that we might not be able to answer all your concerns here. We're just trying to get the most important information over to you for you to process that along with your families and your personal physicians. All right, we're just trying to allow everybody some time to ask the question. Thank you.
Yeah,
Sir
good
Chung?
night. Good night. I have one concern. It's in terms of like the vaccine, in terms of the fact that you cannot, in the future, if it should affect me or my two girls, I cannot sue. Because the Jamaican government, among other governments, has signed a document that you can't sue these pharmaceuticals. So that's my concern in relation to the vaccine.
So indemnification, sir, is not anything new. It has been happening for quite a while. There is no citizen of the US of A that can sue any vaccine manufacturing company since the 1980s. Okay, so indemnification is not new. That does not mean that you cannot get compensation if that is what you are requiring. The indemnification is just that you can't sue the manufacturing company, and they have, not for this discussion, but they have a list of reasons why they don't allow it. But you can sue your government. So if it is for compensation, then it's not negated because you can't sue the manufacturing company.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sir Chung. Tyrone Maxwell, one question quickly, please.
Look how much people there, so. Panic, I say me can tune in and next Zoom meeting.
Pleasant evening. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Sir Maxwell, go ahead.
Yes. I must begin by saying that I am not against vaccines in any way, shape, or form. However, at this specific point in time, I would like to observe some more based on the amount of persons who are taking the vaccines. Now, I had so many things to say until we are strapped for time. One critical thing is that for my child to be going in school for September, I would prefer to take a vaccine before having my child being inoculated. Now, going to that stage, I would like to understand the legitimate means for testing the antibodies within my system, because the possibility, because we're at the stage of community spread, the possibility exists where, you know, a lot of persons would have gotten the virus. So I would want to know the legitimate means by which, you know, persons now would want to be tested to find out, you know, what are the antibodies level within their body. You know, if this virus, they were prior exposed to this virus, and what are the levels there. You know, there were a few more questions, but at one point I thought that my questions would not be answered. So I'll leave that for another forum and another time. So, you know, I would want to find out what are the legitimate means, you know, by which, if we want to find out, just as a doctor who I've heard somebody spoke of, that would have tested himself and would have said that the antibodies within his system is high, right? And he don't have to take the virus at this point in time, because especially I heard earlier that natural immunity would stand for approximately about 6 months. And, you know, there are conversations now about booster shots and the vaccine lasting within your system for approximately a year. So, you know, I would just want to hear a little bit of advice there. And there's one important thing that if Doc could just provide some clarity there. You know, I've heard a lot of negativity about the mRNA and spike protein and such. You know, I am someone who is technologically inclined, and I'm not always, you know, available to go and sit and read on these things. I've never necessarily heard a medical practitioner come out and to speak, you know, directly towards these negative statements that are being uttered against spike protein and against mRNA. So I don't know if you know, that could quickly provide a synopsis of same. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Sir Maxwell. Moving T. Robinson. Can you unmute and ask your question quickly? We have gone way over time.
Is the doc going to say anything with regards to what I said?
Oh, sorry about that, Mr. Maxwell. Doc? Doc?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you were muted for a minute.
Yes, I was. You kept stressing the point about legitimate testing. I'm not sure what legitimate really means. There are laboratories that offer antibody testing. If you believe you need to get an antibody test, then you can access same at one of the laboratories that is offering that kind of service.
So
I'm not sure if that is
what should I go to the lab
legitimate.
and query about? I just genuinely need advice within, you know, within this field. So if I should go to a lab that is close by, what should I ask them that I would want to be tested for?
You should visit your practitioner, you should visit your doctor, and you should make that request of your doctor. And after dialogue and a discussion, the doctor may or may not write that requisition form for you to take to the laboratory to have the test done. But you would need to have that form written by a medical practitioner.
Okay, clear. And if you could just provide a synopsis about this spike protein and mRNA negativity that I'm here going on, that would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, so let us not talk about the spike protein. Let's talk about the messenger RNA, because whatever it is that technology that is being used to generate whatever, be it now or in the future. So it is a code that can be sequenced. It does not require the genes that is transmitted from mother to child or parents to children. It just looks at the proteins that are displayed on the cells, and they use that sequence to create or to make medications, vaccines being one of them. So the chance of becoming ill because you have the whole virus or part thereof is not a factor on this platform. And that is why it is considered a little bit safer than those other types. The negatives of it in the early stages of its trials, they found in ferrets, and ferrets are not the normal laboratory animals that are used. They found in ferrets that the ferrets died. But other studies revealed that it was not that coding that was used that contributed to the death. And that was one study. And when they reverted to utilizing the mice, they did not have that challenge. They did small studies, and this is like between 8 and 10 years ago. They did small studies now looking at humans. And those were the phase 1 studies looking at humans. And they found that the technology was effective and safe because the messenger RNA, that code that is generated, it does not get into the nucleus, which is where the DNA is stored, and it also disintegrates rapidly. So because of the fragility, that's the word, of the temperature that it must be maintained at, once it gets into the body and the message is transcribed, then it disintegrates. It doesn't stay in the body to cause any problems. And it was based on those findings that they were able to move ahead with looking at that technology.
All right, thank you. Unfortunately, we have gone way into overtime. We are only able to take one more question. I'm going to ask for all the other persons whose hands have been up, if you can put your question as well as a contact, email or telephone number in the chat. I can ask Doc for the answer and then communicate that to you, but we will also be having additional sessions. We do apologize for this. Angela McDonald, may I ask you to ask your question, please, quickly? I know you have had your hand up from 6:45.
You had called me before, Miss McDonald. I didn't get to put my point across.
Who is this speaking?
T. Robinson.
Okay, go ahead quickly, and then Angela McDonald, and then we wrap up, please.
Okay, so good night and all protocols observed. Now, my thing is more of I'm saying now what we need, I think what we need to do in order to get more people to come out to do this vaccine is to educate the people. That is where we're having the problem. There's a lot of myths going around and people are not being educated. They're not sure of what to expect and all of that. So what we need to do is get something, go out into the community to educate people on this vaccine. I have already gotten my vaccine. I have one child. And when it comes to people with children, they're very concerned about their children, where they're able to put themselves out to be lab rats. They won't be able to put their children out that fast. So what we need to do is educate people on this thing. We need to go to the communities. Not everybody have internet to join meeting like I have and others have. So you need to go out and educate the people in the community so that they can know that, okay, this is what is happening. because that is where we are falling short in this vaccine. Once you go in the community, I think more people would be willing to take that vaccine once they know exactly, okay, this is exactly what is happening. Somebody's here to address me and answer my questions. And that is where we're having the problems. Thank you.
All right. Angelo, the question that you were asking is the one that I'm seeing in the chat. Angelo, McDonald, going once, going twice. KK had a question, Doc, that he wanted to ask, he or she, that they have a family member who is fully vaccinated but critically ill in hospital. I guess they wanted your take on that issue.
I don't know what they're critically ill
And that
with.
depends on what they, okay. Depends on what the critical issue is.
I don't know what they're critically ill with.
Or if there are any comorbidities or any side effects. All right, so KK, please send me your contact so that we can have that addressed one-on-one, because there's more information that would be required. Thank you all. Tonight was really the first in a series to give our parents, our guardians, our teachers, principals, the population in general, information that would help in you making your own personal decision as it relates to taking the vaccine. While we encourage everyone to do so, we know it is a matter of personal decision. It is personal decision. Nobody is being forced. Persons are being encouraged and persons are assuming that they are being forced. It depends on who you are speaking with and the way in which it is conveyed to you. For those persons who still have burning questions that were not answered, please just drop your contact in the chat so that we can get your answers answered. We are also going to be having additional sessions, sensitization sessions with Dr. Ennis and other members of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And we are going to invite you to look out for the flyers. And we're also going to be engaging the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information in terms of answering the questions that are directly linked to the vaccination and the face-to-face versus the online, because that falls within the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information's realm of control, and they are the ones who have to and would have to answer to us in that regard. All right, so I do appreciate all of you taking the time out to be with us this evening. This is the first in the series. We are looking to have a larger platform the next time around, accommodating 1,000. We hope that we can get it live streamed as well to make it easier for persons to join in and ask questions. But I would love to thank you all so much for taking the time out to share with us, to be with us tonight. Hope that if not all of your questions were answered, that most of them were. All right, so I'm going to ask that you listen out for the next round of sessions, maybe later this week. We will confirm with Dr. Ennis and we will be in touch with you. Have a wonderful night, everyone. And Dr. Ennis, special and heartfelt thanks to you and the Ministry of Health and Wellness for engaging with us tonight. And we do look forward to having you once again. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Be safe, continue to mask up, sanitize, and while I encourage you all to vaccinate, recall it is still a personal decision. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful and blessed night.
Good night.
Good night.
Take care of yourself, guys, please.
Good night.
And when we send out the flyers again, you can share it with others who weren't able to join. All right, bye-bye.
Good night, thank you.
All right, bye, Kelly.
Good.
Bye, Marsha.
Good night.
Good night,
Good night,
Ralphie.
everyone.
Good night, Michelle.
Good night.
Bye, Beverly.
Good night.
All
Good
right,
night.
Florette, thank you for participating, everyone. It was our
You're
pleasure
welcome.
having you all.
Night.
Bye, Tracy Ann.
Good night.
Bye, Charmaine.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye, Peter Gay. Charmaine. All right.
Good night.
Night, night. Let's see, who is that now? Let's
Good
scroll
night.
over. Good night to you too. Continue to keep
Buenas
safe
noches.
and protect our families. Blessings all.
Good night,
Good night, Gabe. Or is it Gabby? How you pronounce that?
Gabriella.
Oh, it's Gabriella. Gabby. Okay, cool.
I'm fine.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Good night. Thank you.
Night.
Good night.
Take care. Continue to be
Good
safe.
night, everyone.
Yeah, dear, me just don't come out of the meeting. From when you tell me come that try zoom in with EJ them